This comes to us from BuzzFeed News. The article is called "This is What Your Worlds Are Lacking." Artists are using AI to create fat, black, sci-fi and fantasy characters. Quote, fat black people deserve to be main characters capable of anything. I wonder if they're going to be doing battle with diabetes and heart disease. So the article opens with this image. I want you to take a look at what this person is creating and form your own opinions as to if this is something you'd like to see in science fiction. If not, does that make you a racist? I don't think so. As a young child growing up in Greenville, North Carolina, artist Alex Smith spent a lot of time engrossed in the world of cartoons, comics, X-Men, Doom Patrol. In college, artist Smith first encountered science fiction novels by Octavia Butler and Samuel Delany, both of whom he admitted he admired, quote, because they were black and absolutely phenomenally awesome. You know, I've read a lot of science fiction. At 50 years of age, I've read a lot of fantasy books, and never once did I pick up that book and ask what the gender, sexuality, political differences, skin color, age of that author was. Do you? Quote, they both showed me that science fiction could have literary quality and could be progressive and liberatory, Smith added. Just their ideas, world building, and the love of language fascinated me. If you're going to pick authors solely based upon their skin color, sexuality, political differences, and the message within that science fiction or fantasy, then are you really reading science fiction and fantasy for an escape? Or are you reading books for ideological reasons? Now, you can do that. But that doesn't mean that I, as someone who reads science fiction, fantasy, other books for escape, want to hear about it or think that your opinion is somehow holier or more progressive or more liberated than I am. And actually, to a certain degree, I feel bad for you, because maybe what you do need is some escape, some perspective. Smith goes on, sci-fi is kind of my church. Now, this artist is 47 years old, living in Philadelphia. Wow, there's a dangerous place to live. Quote, it's spiritual and very much connected to who I am as a black, queer person. Smith says the problem with his church, meaning science fiction, is that there isn't very much black or queer representation. The thing about books that are classics is that they feature the human condition. You can read countless science fiction and fantasy books, and your gender, your sexuality, and the color of your skin and your politics have absolutely nothing to do with the story. Why? Because the person who created that book was interested in telling a story that anyone could relate to. Now, if you're going to these books and unable to relate to them because you don't see yourself as a black queer man living in Philadelphia in 2023, then the problem is not with science fiction. The problem is not with fantasy. Now, the article says mainstream sci-fi features black characters like Morpheus from The Matrix, Mace Windu from Star Wars, obviously Geordi LaForge from The Next Generation, not to mention other characters that they've put in New Trek and Star Trek, which I don't have any interest of. We could also add Finn in Disney Star Wars, which isn't Star Wars, Aliens, Planet of the Apes, Lando Calrissian, Nichelle Nichols on the original Star Trek. What I'm kind of questioning in this article is that, did the author of this particular article deliberately omit those people, or were they just not aware of the genre? I'll let you decide. Now, this artist goes on, says, it just admonishes me that fat people in general are treated and depicted as second-class citizens in science fiction works, or they're made to represent something like greed, lust, or villainy. A lot of things I want to say. I'm not going to say them. Now, this artist talks about the villain in Dune. He says, quote, I used to do a queer sci-fi reading series called Laser Life. And when I was on the hunt for guest readers, the very first story I received depicted a villain who was fat. The character's fatness was described in loathsome terms. This is where we are. It was considered an obvious indicator of their villainy. It's really disappointing. Now, when this guy got an AI generator, Smith, who is apparently an established visual artist, adopted those tools to create several black, fat, and queer characters for a more inclusive, futuristic world. Now, among them was Marcus, whom Smith brought to life using Midjourney and some other AI program that creates talking avatars. Marcus, according to the artist, heads up a division of the Electric Afro Science Institute. The Electric Afro Science Institute, which Smith called, quote, a superhero-led independent Afrofuturist organization that works in biomechanics, cosmic engineering, nanotechnology, and metal alchemy. Now, this guy can create whatever worlds he wants. I think it's great that people are creative, but are you noticing the tone in all of this, which is ideology and identity politics? It's almost like science fiction is existing for this person only to be a platform for them to spread their ideology and their belief system. Oh, but wait, there's more information on Marcus. Now, this artist, Smith, describes Marcus, who is queer. In one animated portrait of Marcus Smith posts on his Instagram page, the character asks, "So who out here gonna draw me?" Quote, the question Marcus is saying is, hey, I have a right to exist. Even if I'm artificial, I still came from a human mind and a human idea. I should exist, says the artist. Well, dude, here's the thing. I've written a lot of stories. I've created a lot of artwork. I've made a lot of music. I don't think people have to take my ideas, which I think are great, but objectively may not be, and do anything with them. Quote, it's kind of a declaration that both Marcus and my work, his work, will always exist to provide that challenge to other artists by holding up a mirror and saying, hey, this is what your worlds are lacking. Yes, what our science fiction worlds are lacking, according to this self-appointed individual who's going to be the arbitrator and decision maker on science fiction, is that it needs more fat, black, and queer characters. There are a number of other black creators who are using AI to build up more inclusive worlds. There's someone by the name of Jarvey, a 38-year-old San Diego performance artist and spiritualist who uses Midjourney to make ethereal portraits of themselves and other fat, black femmes. I guess that's a gay thing. Quote, when using my own image prompts, I use descriptors like, imagine this image has a body of water, or imagine this as a poster for an alien nail salon. Imagine this as a poster for an alien nail salon. You also have Rochelle Brock, a 27-year-old Brooklyn-based, size-inclusive beauty and lifestyle photographer who got into digital art via creating families on The Sims. Look at the qualifications of these creatives. Can I just say that? Now, she uses Midjourney to explore both the quotation aspects of fat black life. Sorry. And to create more majestic pieces that showcase fat black bodies in the form of angels and mermaids and other mythical creatures. Quote, it sort of sucks to know you are undesirable and underrepresented in the real world and the fantasy world as well, says Brock. I see fat women as beautiful beings who are capable of anything, and I wanted AI to see them as that also. There's also a 33-year-old North Carolina artist who has this that I can't even say on YouTube, who asked BuzzFeed News not to use her real name. Now, this person describes her AI art as a quote, a visual ode to quote, those who are fat, black, dark skinned, queer, trans, working class poor, and who access education outside of institutions, who are crazy mad, and who are hood. Unquote. Intersectional feminism, right there. Identity politics, right there. Look at that list. Fat, black, dark skinned, queer, trans, working class, poor, who didn't go to school, who are mad and from the hood. You take away one of those aspects. What if they're not fat and they're only black, dark skinned, queer, trans? What if they're that? I don't get this stuff, guys. So all of these artists are using this AI to create art which ranges from quote playful to quote unthinkably gorgeous, as well as terrifying. Now, this same individual who's I don't know, tag at I can't even say, says, cool, my AI work is an extension of me inviting myself and other fat, black, queer, trans folks to see ourselves in the most expansive way possible. Now, she also added, she wasn't particularly into science fiction, but appreciated the world building aspect of it. Quote, what I'm really interested in with my AI art is depictions of fat, black, queer, and trans folks that are rooted in not being beautiful, but rooted in being terrifying. BuzzFeed wraps up this stellar reporting by saying AI art generators, quote, democratize art by giving people access to programs that are fairly low cost, said a professor at Georgia Tech. When it comes to creating fat, black, renders, there are a number of obstacles apparently. So even the software is racist. One of the artists, Jarvey, said they have to be as specific as possible when using keywords pertaining to their fatness and their blackness. Quote, when I first started recreating myself in Midjourney, I realized I couldn't just put in the word fat. I have to write things like very, very fat with a double chin and a wide nose, and quote, a very, very large belly. Sorry. Quote, that blew my mind that I have to ask AI for accommodations. Of course, this being BuzzFeed, will end on this one, as imperfect and rooted in white supremacy. Sorry. As AI image generators may be, the artist BuzzFeed News spoke to saw them as important tools for self-expression and proper representation. Going back to artist Smith pointed out that why his AI-generated character Marcus is important, quote, he's more crush material for burgeoning young queer boys. Wow. Who might think there isn't a person out there who looks like them or who they can fall in love with, unquote. For artist Brock, the message of her artwork is clear and simple. Quote, fat black people deserve to be main characters capable of anything. We are just here like everybody else. What does this have to do with what makes science fiction good? What does this have to do with creating good characters? I don't think it has anything to do with it. And the reason why is we're looking at very superficial qualities of very few people who seem to have ideology driving a lot of what, in victimhood, a lot of what they want to see is that. The superficial qualities, there's nothing wrong with any of those things. Sexuality or ideology, whatever it is. I think the problem for me is when you talk about how everybody else has to like what you've done and value what you've done. They don't. I'm Salty Traveling C. You have a good one.